Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurudeva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Chinmayam Yapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Shapita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhusya Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we are continuing our chapter on renunciation, and Vidyaranya is making the distinctions between the two levels of the Paramahansa. So when one leaves the world, enters into sannyas as a state, but is still at the level of the jinyasu, the seeker after liberation. And in our modern day and age, again, it's not necessary for us to join an ashram, take diksha, etc. The important thing is the willingness to let go of our attachments to all experiences gained through the senses and our identification with all ideas of self. And he draws a contrast between that as a practice and the effortless non-attachment of the jnani, the woman or the man of realization, who is effortlessly unattached to this world. So what verse are we on?
We're on the big paragraph on page 19.
Page 19, big paragraph.
At the bottom half of the page.
Okay.
Yasya brahmavido bhavaha satta svabhava atma naham krito ahankarena tadatmyadhyasadantarnashchatitaha buddhilepaha sanshayah tadbhave trailokya vadhenapi na badhyate kimuttanyena karmane tyarthaha nanvevam sati vividisha sannyasa phalena tattva jnanenaiva ज्ञानेनैवागामिजन्मनो पारितत्त्व पारितत्त्वाद्वर्तमानजन्मशेषस्य भोगमन्तरेण विनाशयितुमशक्यत्वात् किमनेन प्रयासेनेति चेत् नैवं सन्न्यासस्य जीवन्मुक्ति हेतुत्वात् तस्माद्वेदानाय यथा विविदिशसन्न्यास एवं जीवन्मुक्तये विद्वत्सन्न्यासः सम्पादनीयः इति विद्वत्सन्न्यासः. Whose, yasya, means the knower of Brahman, being, bhav, means the true state or truth or reality, the true essence, nature, own state of being, i.e. the self, not conceived as the agents of actions, na ahamkrita, means due to superimposed identification of the self with the mind, one conceives oneself as the agent, whose mind is not clouded by the ego. Attachment of the intellect, buddhilepaha, is doubt. In the absence of these two things, the ego and the doubt, one is never subjected to bondage by any action, even by destroying the three worlds. Objection. Well, if such is the state of affairs, there is no point in taking so much trouble for the renunciation of the knower, vidvat sannyas. Since the seeker's renunciation, vividisha sannyas, itself leads to the realization of the ultimate reality, which in its turn prevents future birth, and the remaining portion of the existing life has to be lived through because there is no other way to get rid of it. The vidvat sannyas is of no use. Reply. No, that cannot be, since the end of vidvat sannyas is liberation in this life. For the attainment of knowledge, vividisha sannyas is necessary. Similarly, for the attainment of liberation in life, vidvat sannyas is necessary. Thus far about vidvat sannyas.
So it's a bit convoluted in its construction, but the essential doubt is this. The student thinks, well, all I have to do is enter into this earlier stage of sannyas, leave the world, become a sannyasi, live out my life, be aware of my prarabdha, and when it's all done, all is gone. I've given up the world. And here Vidyaranya says it's not really enough. It's an essential preparatory practice. But knowledge, freedom, moksha is the effortless abidance in the knowledge I am Brahman. The effortless awareness that this world is like a dream. Sarvam idam swapneti. Swapna iti. All this world is like a dream. Where one no longer ever identifies as the individual. And again, I like to go back to this verse that Shankara has in Viveka Chudamani, even after realization of the truth, even if we have these experiences of the no thingness, emptiness in the self, there exists a strong impression that one is the doer and the enjoyer, karta bhokta, which is the cause for rebirth. It means I re-identify. It needs to be conscientiously rooted out. Steady and continuous identification with the self. Don't settle for it. Don't settle for being what we call a lip Vedanta. Yes, I know it's myself, that I'm ego identified as just prarabdha, and I'm not going to bother to do anything about it. I'm just going to suffer like an ordinary person. Here, Vidyaranya says, finish this world. Leave it all behind. What does it ultimately mean? Renounce the mind itself. How do I do that? It doesn't mean the cessation of thought. It means I quit believing my mind itself. It's believing its own silliness. So it's not just giving up the world. It's then retiring into the self. Full knower of the Supreme who has retired into the Supreme, who's no longer afflicted by desire, who has samadrishta, the equality of vision, heat and cold, pleasure and suffering. All right, any thoughts on this? How do you know when someone has not achieved the annihilation of the vasanas? The mind still extroverts into the world. Meaning I still have moments when I want it to be different than it is, and that's what I need to be okay. Very simple. If that's what happens for us, we have more tapas to do. The annihilation of the vasanas here and now is considered liberation by the ones. But Shankara says. Next one.
अथकेयं जीवनमुक्तिः किं वा तत्र प्रमाणं कथं वा तस्तिथिः सिद्धो वा किं प्रयोजनमिति चेत्. Objection. Now the question is, what is this liberation in life? What evidence regarding this is there? If there is any, how can this be accomplished? Even if accomplished, what purpose will that serve?
Yeah. So maybe there is no liberation in this life. There are some religious people in Hinduism who think all actions under all circumstances are impelled by desire. Desire is the function of vasana. So if the dude's walking around, the fact that they're walking around indicates they're not yet liberated. The only real liberation is after we die, videha moksha. And here the objector says, well, if there is this thing called being Jivan Mukta, liberated while alive, what's its value? What's the value of it? What's its purpose? Let's see what Vidyaranya says.
Uchyate jivitaha purushasya kartritva bhoktatva sukha dukkhadi lakshana shchitta dharma klesha rupatvadvandho bhavati tasya nivaranam jivana muktihi. Reply. The answer is, a man in his life experiences pleasure and pain through the functions of his mind, conceiving himself as the performer of all actions and enjoyer of their fruits. These cares of life are the bondage. Being worn with cares, he is unable to taste the bliss, which is his nature, the cessation of which is liberation in life.
Yeah. So, the fact that my mind extroverts into the world, and most of the time it's just this low-level agitation. I'm restless, I'm irritable, I'm discontent, I'm dissatisfied. I need some relief. So I want to fix that mind state. Drugs, sex, and rock and roll. But there are subtler forms of it. Controlling other people. I'm in the wrong place, doing the wrong thing with the wrong people. And the end result is I'm unable to taste the bliss of my own self-nature. The mind won't come home. So the Master Jesus phrased it this way: my kingdom is not of this world. My peace I give you, a peace that passes all understanding. The Brahmananda rasa, the taste, the juice of the bliss of Brahman. And this is one of the things that if we're in the presence of a real person of knowledge, they can help us with. So Swamiji used to call it borrowed glory. Because their mind has retired into the self. When we tune to them, we get a taste of the awakened mind. Direct experience. So the way, again, Krishna frames it in the second chapter of Gita. When a person casts off all the desires of the mind, O Partha, first part, first level of sannyas, and is satisfied in the self. Then they're said to be a person of steady wisdom. And this deep renunciation of the phenomena of the world only comes through insight, never from a moral position. When I get sick and tired of being sick and tired, when I begin to see it is the karma itself that is so painful. Next verse.
Nanbayam bandha kim sakshino nivaryate kim vachitat nadhyah tattvagnanenaiva nivaritatvat na dvitiyah asambhavat yada tu jalad dravatvam nivaryeta brahmevvoshna tattvam tadachitat कर्तृत्वादिनिवारण संभवः स्वाभाविकत्वं तु सर्वत्र समानम्. Objection. The question is whether this bondage is of the witness or of the mind. For it is of the witness, for if it is of the witness, it is removed by the knowledge of the reality. And if it is of the mind, it is not possible since it is inherent in the thing itself. The agency of the mind in all actions could be removed if and when the fluidity from water or the heat from fire could be removed, which is not possible since these are equally natural to such things.
So his doubt is the mind inherently bondage? Therefore, it can never be free. And is it the self that's in bondage? Does it become liberated? Now, let me simplify it because I suspect Vidyaranya is going to give a bit of a complicated answer. Both bondage and liberation occur to the mind. The self is ever free. Your self is never in bondage. And I can prove it to you. The most miserable of people, I can ask them, I'm so sorry you're miserable, but by the way, do you exist? Yeah, I exist. What's your existence? Misery. Do you know your misery? Yes. No one responds, I don't exist. I have no misery because I don't have anything I don't know. I am, I know. But on top of that is a mind in ignorance. What is the mind in ignorance? First, avarana shakti, the non-apprehension of my essential nature. It's not the self that has it, it's the mind. The fruit of that non-apprehension then is the projection, the vikshepa shakti. I think I'm my body plus my personality. And along with that is what we call anyonya adhyasa, mutual superimposition. I superimpose upon the self the qualities of the not self. I'm my body. I'm my feelings. I'm my thoughts. I'm the agent, Chidabhasa, in the subtle intellect. And then I superimpose upon this phenomenal world, which is fundamentally shunyata. It's a hologram. It is void. It has no inherent value, good or bad, right or wrong, just or unjust. And what do? Sat. It exists separate and apart from me. You are over there. Chit. I superimpose sentience. You have consciousness over there, separate from me. And Ananda, you make me so happy until you misbehave, and then you make me so sad. Anyonya Adhyasa. That's my misery. That's a mind state. The sat of the self is always evident. The chit of the self is always there. But the ananda can become veiled. Now, what is self-realization? What is moksha? It's nothing more than the deeply rooted conviction in the mind. Not that I'm a realized person, not that I'm now free, look at me. But I was never bound in the first place. I am Brahman. This world, nitya, illusory. I never change. I don't have to practice detachment. It's the most obvious thing in the world. How is this achieved? The annihilation of the vasanas, meaning attachment by attachment. Then the mind easily comes home to the self. Neither state affects the self. But there's an interesting metaphor. If you take a lamp and you put it inside a clay pot with the lid on, nothing shines out. In a sense, that's like the self shining out of a very dull and obscured mind. But if you put a lamp or a candle inside a glass jar, the glass has transparency, so the light shines out. So a sattvic mind is clear, is clean. Both bondage and liberation occurred in the mind. The self is ever free. Well, isn't this in Maya? Why should I be attached to this? Knock yourself out. You will gladly befriend your misery if you like. Well, my misery isn't real. That's true. Then liberation isn't real. That's true from the standpoint of the absolute. It's the human mind and its belief and its false projections that causes it to suffer. Any thoughts on this? And we get the evidence of this. If at any time in the world you've got some control issue going on and you have the insight, drop it. You don't resolve the struggle of ego, you drop the struggle. What happens? At peace. Next verse.
Nanu prarabdham karma kritsna vidyat tat karya nashane pravrittasya tattva jnanasya pratibandham kritva safala danaya dehendriyadika mavasthapayati na cha sukha dukkhadi bhoga chitta vrittim vina sampadayitum shakyate tataha katham bhibaha. Objection. But the prarabdha karma, the karma which has started the present life and will remain active till the end, will maintain the body and its senses. Oh, sorry, I skipped a verse. Okay. Mevam atyante kanivarana sambhave apyabhibhasya sambhavat yatha jalagatam dravatvam mritikame lanena vibhuyate brahmeronyayam manimantradina tatha sarvadaschitta vrittiyo yoga bhyasena bhivitum shakyante. Reply. Not so. Though it is not possible to remove it completely, but it can be prevailed over. As the fluidity is counterbalanced by adding earth to water, and the heat of fire by the help of a jewel or incantation, similarly, each and every state of mind can be neutralized by the practice of yoga, concentration.
Yes. So what he's saying is we are not doomed to be at the effect of our mind states. If I believe my mind states are real, if a desire arises, I'm convinced I must act on it, then I'm tyrannized by what I call the inner 2-year-old. Well, I want to. And the yogi, through practice, learns that the desire goes away through inattention. Just be present to it. How many times do you hear me say this? Just don't do something, stand there. Just don't sit there. Just don't do something, sit there. We are not necessarily compelled into action by a mind state. If I don't believe the mind state, if I know what the mind state is, the mind state is simply the result of the past. It has nothing to do with what's real or true or what's going to make me happy. Our worries, our compulsions, cravings wither and die from lack of attention. Turn my mind to the end. Any thoughts on this? Now, modern psychology will tell us. Let's wait till this noise passes by. That we can get some value through causation hunting. I have this compulsive reaction to a situation. I'm triggered because of this trauma from my childhood. Okay. What that can tell us is it's really not anything that's happening in the present time, but it doesn't give us the tools to let it go. You still have to do the tapas. This is why knowing why I'm a basket case doesn't stop me from being a basket case. I still must do the tapas. The mind states will wither and die from lack of attention. When I turn my mind towards the infinite. If that be difficult, turn your mind towards seva, towards service. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Nanu prarabdham karma kritsna vidyat karyanashane pravrittasya tattvajnanasya pratibandham kritva safaladhanaya dehendriyadi kama vasthapayati na cha sukha-dukkhadi bhogaschitta vrittim vina sampadayitum shakyate tataha kathamabhibhaha. Objection. But the prarabdha karma, the karma which has started the present life and will remain active till the end, will maintain the body and its senses, etc., in order to fructify itself, because experiencing of pleasure and pain, etc., are impossible without the mind being in its proper functioning state. So the prarabdha karma will prevent the knowledge from destroying the ignorance along with its effects in its entirety. So no neutralization is possible.
Yes. So here the objector is talking about the direct experience that many of us have. I do not do that which I would do. I want to meditate every day, but I can't get myself to do it. I want to be kind to my friends, especially my relatives or my spouse, and I can't do it. I act like a jerk. And I can't let it go. I can't let it go. I can't let it go. Does that mean I'm stuck with it? It's my nature to be a jerk. The Well, I just have to live with it. It is my nature to be tyrannized by raga and dvesha. I'm attached to this and I hate that. Will I ever get over my control issues? Will I ever get over my anger? Most of us go through a period where it feels impossible. Does this sound familiar?
Mhm.
Prarabdha. Am I going to be stuck with this to the day I die? I know better, but I can't make it stop. Prarabdha. Let's see what Vidyaranya says.
Maivam abhibhasathaya jivana mukterapi sukhatishaya rupatvena prarabdha phala evantarbhavat tarhi karmeva jivanamuktim sampadayishyati ma bhutpurusha prayatna iti chetah krishi vani jayatavapi samanaha parayanu yoga. Reply: it cannot be said so. The liberation in life, which is the result of the neutralization, is of the nature of supreme happiness, hence comes within the purview of the prarabdha karma. Nor can it be said that the liberation in life can be achieved by prarabdha karma alone, so there is no need of human effort, since similar objections can be raised in the case of agriculture, business, etc.
So, what he's saying here is yes, self realization does neutralize the effects of prarabdha. Let me give you a real world example. So I was at a meeting this week and I was talking with this fellow who's 77, who has now been diagnosed with wet macular degeneration. He's full of fear. He's despondent, overwhelmed. But the main thing is fear. And I can only tell you out of my own direct experience. When I lost my sight 24 years ago, I had fear. It's all going to work out. And I knew at some level it would be a gift. As with anything in life, and I love what Krishna says, even a little of this knowledge frees us from great fear. So it doesn't mean that bad things don't happen to good people. Doesn't mean we're going to hit all the green lights of life. Your equipment will get its allotted dose of joys and sorrows, successes and failures. But you and I can stand back. And what this knowledge gives us is a peace that's independent of this comes from knowledge of the self. There's a wonderful discussion on prarabdha again in Viveka Chudamani. That whole section is entitled "Is there prarabdha for the saint?" Prarabdha is for the ignorant. It's a teaching for those of us who are still seekers to describe what we see, which is the guru is walking around, eating, drinking, doing this, doing that. But subjectively, for the woman of knowledge, what is the mark of a woman of knowledge? I am not the body. I am that heartless Brahman. What is this body? Well, actually, it's nothing real. It's conjured by imagination. Seems really real, but then so does the dream body. Can we say the dream body has any real karma? So the person of wisdom sees the equipment like a shadow, like the image in the mirror. See. When the mind quits believing in its own reality, everything changes. And this Atmanam becomes easy. And then we don't get attached even to some euphoric state. Let that go. I cannot think of real thought. There's no true thoughts, only opinions. Don't believe them. No personal sense of self is real. Drop it. No object in the world has any inherent joy giving or misery producing qualities. It is the craving itself that is the problem. This is sannyas. Give up the struggler. Next one.
कर्मणः रूपस्य दृष्टसाधनसम्पत्तिमन्तरेण फलजननासमर्थत्वादपेक्षितः कृष्यादौ पुरुषप्रयत्न इति चेत्. Objection. Karma is invisible in nature and needs some visible aids to produce results, i.e., karma is ineffective till some means are adopted. So, agriculture, etc., depend upon human effort, etc.
Oh, I forgot to address the second half of the last verse. So, what he's addressing here is what I call armchair grace. I don't really need to do anything. It's my prarabdha to become enlightened or not, meaning no self effort is required. And again, I think the best metaphor for this is puberty. Nobody chooses puberty. The body does its thing, reaches a certain age, and then all these hormonal changes happen. But as the result of puberty, self effort takes place. Oh, he's so wonderful. I hope he asks me to the dance. Oh, she's so pretty. I hope she says yes to going out to the soda shop. Kids do those things anymore. But that's the idea. Then comes our self effort. So we do need to make efforts. So, those of us who studied Yoga Sutra, in the second chapter, the first sutra, Tapas Swadhyayeshwara Pranidhana Kriya Yoga. What's the difference between karma and kriya? Karma is a completed action. Kriya is an action going on. Tapas, austerities, turning the mind from one habituated flow of thought to another. Swadhyaya. In the Vedanta tradition, it means our own study of scripture. Literally just means self-study. In Yoga Sutra, it means critical inventory of our psychological strengths and weaknesses. So I know what my kleshas, my afflictions are, what my doshas, my defects are, understanding what my issues are. So we actually take it from the inside. First comes the inventory process. Yeah, I keep believing I can change my wife. I keep believing I can change my husband. I keep believing that if only they would do life differently, I would be okay. And the insight. This is our swadhyaya. This is where a therapist can be of value. Then tapas. Let it go. Let it go. But it seems impossible. Then comes Ishvara Pranidhana, trustful surrender to God. I can't, she can, I give it to you. This is yoga in action, Kriya Yoga. It's one of my favorite sutras. This is the proper understanding of grace brought up to here versus Purushartha, self effort. The engine for my self effort, subhage, auspicious desire, mumukshutva, the burning desire for liberation. which can be framed as the burning desire to be free from my misery. When I get sick and tired of being sick and tired, I'll finally do something about it. So that I choose to make these efforts is product. So here he's striking at this false notion of what I call armchair grace. I'm just going to sit here. God's going to do it all. Proper use of our own personal will is to align it with the strive hard for liberation. Any thoughts on this? All right, next one.
Jivan Mukta. Did I do this one? Okay. Jivan Mukta Samam Samadhanam Satyapi Purusha Prayatne Krishadeha Halaparyavasanam Yatra na drishyate tatra prabalena karmantarena pratibandha kalpaniyaha taccha prabalam karma swanukula vrishtaya bhavatirupam drishta samagrim sampadyeva pratibandhanati. Reply. This applies equally to the case of the liberation in life, i.e., with the help of yoga exercise, the result is effected. In spite of human efforts, etc., where the expected result of agriculture, etc., is not obtained, it is imagined that a stronger karma is obstructing the course. That very powerful karma, by creating favorable as well as visible means, such as drought, etc., obstructs.
So here he's drawing this parallel between agriculture and our yoga. You can plow the soil, plant the seeds, and then no rain comes. Karma is obstructing the fruit. It can happen in our sadhana as well. Any of us who have had to deal with, for example, a debilitating disease, especially if it's chronic pain, in the beginning of our practice, that can make it really. But again, it can be blunted. Let's see what his reply is going on.
Sa cha pratibandho virodhina prabalattareno tamabhakena karirishtra yadirupena karmana niyate taccha karma swanukulam vrishtilakshanam vrishta samagrim sampadhyeva pratibandhanam panayati kim bahuna prarabdha karmanye vatya vatyanta bhaktena bhavata योगाभ्यास रूपस्य पुरुष प्रयत्नस्य वैयर्थ्यम वैयर्थ्यम मनसापि चिन्तयितुमशक्सम् अथवा प्रारब्धं कर्म यथा तत्त्वज्ञानात् प्रबलं तथा तस्मादपि कर्मणो योगाभ्यासः प्रबलोऽस्तु तथा च योगिनामुद्दालक वीतहव्यादीनां स्वेच्छया देहत्याग उपपद्यते. That obstruction is counteracted by far stronger rival obstructing karma, such as kadiri, sacrifice, etc. That karma generating favorable visible means, such as rain, etc., removes the obstruction. Without further elaboration, we say that the futility of human efforts, such as the practice of yoga, etc., you who are obsessed with prarabdha karma cannot even imagine. Or let it be thus. As the operating prarabdha karma is stronger than knowledge, similarly, let the practice of yoga be more powerful than the prarabdha karma. In this manner, the giving up of their bodies by the yogis, such as Uddhalaka and Vidhavya, etc., is justified.
So there are means again to blunt the dullness of the mind. These practices we find in Raja Yoga, asana, pranayama, ritual, etc. This all is addressed in a far more concise way in the third chapter of the Gaudapada Karika in Mandukya Upanishad. So, Gaudapada basically says, for the most brilliant intellects, just the hearing of this truth will bring knowledge. But in the third chapter, he says, for those of middling or inferior intellects, control of the mind is necessary. Then he gives these wonderful aids to meditation to achieve the same end. So my view on the whole subject, do what works. If you have doubts, do practices. If there are thorny things going on in your life, there might be specific yogic practices that are about. My personal view is the guru operates as your deep intuition. I have absolute trust in your higher power for you. Doesn't mean it's universal and applicable to everyone. I'm thinking of a particular student. They are no longer working with me. They've decided Amaji is their guru. I think that's marvelous. She's a great saint. What the student is doing is a whole lot of seva. Seva is really good. burning out prarabdha. Vedanta, in its pure form, is not for everyone. And as I said earlier, in the end, prarabdha is an illusion. Swamiji used to call it the genealogy of the ghost and the ghost. You don't have to get caught up in it. Let the body get its allotted dose of successes and failures, joys and sorrows. You can be independent of it all. And don't be concerned about the behavior or the apparent mind states of other people. One of the things Swamiji said, which I took to heart very much in the beginning, he said, don't get involved with my personality. If you cannot see who I am, then just see me as a mouthpiece for the scriptures. If we get all involved in the personalities of other people, it all gets to be problematic. All right, we'll quit here. What verse are we on for next week? What page?
We are on page 23.
Page 23.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I have a question,
please.
actually. Could you say a little bit more by what you mean in terms of getting involved with someone's personality?
Well, mainly with the teacher, or you can do that with somebody at work. So, for example, let's say you have a boss who has character traits that you find off-putting. You don't have to get involved with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You can just do your job.
Yeah.
And if what they do or say is annoying, you just park it in the corner. It's not real. Why is this true? I'm sure you've had this experience. You'll be in a social group and there'll be a person, that person just drives me up a wall. How can you like that person? And your friend will say, oh, they're a little weird, but you know, they're a nice person. Or on the other hand, someone will say, oh, how can you speak to that person? They're so terrible. Blah, blah, blah. They just annoy me to pieces. Well, you know, there's nothing. Have you ever had that experience? Mm-hmm. What does that say? It's my projection. Oh, you have to believe them. Is that helpful?
Yes.
What had come to my mind is when I was in the ashram, there was all this comparison of this guru for that guru for, you know, Swamiji's realized, but Muktanand is completely realized, and Guru Baba's supremely, completely realized. And then I'll talk to people today, oh, Swamiji, he doesn't count. Amaji is where it's at. And all the focus is not on the self, but on the manifestation of the Guru. That's, in the end, unimportant. that make sense? Good question. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Namaha.